Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies. So what I like about the transfer portal is the ability for kids to go get another opportunity to maybe play more, right? An opportunity for maybe it wasn't the right fit. And what I like about it is for a team like Texas A&M, you can go and not wait a year or 2, 3 years to go get certain types of players to join your roster. You need help at the wide receiver spot. I like it. What I don't like about it.
Yeah, what is that?
Did you listen to Jay Norvell yesterday? His little, I don't know if it was from yesterday, but I saw it yesterday. Him talking about what his players are going through. Basically, there are agents that'll DM you, all right, and tell you, hey, I can get you $200,000 here. And basically what they do is they'll call schools and say, hey, how much would you, if I get this guy to you, how much are you going to pay? I'll pay $170. And then they go to the next school, $170, this guy's offering $170, can you get $180? And they get it as high as they can. Then they take 15 to 20% of that, and they DM kids that they don't have a relationship with to get them. And by the way, I understand the business aspect of it. It's smart business by them. But that's what I don't like about it, because what Norvell was talking about is there are certain players that weren't even considering the portal. But then when you say to them, I'll get you $200,000, how do they not look into it?
It's a problem. I mean, it's true. I mean, if I'm a player and somebody's willing to pay me $200, now I got to understand, and I don't know that all the players do, but yeah, like you just said, he's going to take probably 20%.
Yep.
Which the players need to get together and say, no.
No, we're not doing that anymore.
Not 20%.
NFL agents make
3
to 5%, I believe it is. Marketing agents make 10% away from football.
Right. So, yeah.
For real endorsements.
I mean, talk about if that number's right, 20, because somebody said it, doesn't, right? Because somebody once said A&M spent $30 million on it.
This is true.
Right? So,
this is true. If that number's correct.
But if that number's correct, and they're getting 20%. Well, first of all, you need to hold out for a better agent, and then how much of that you're going to take another 10% of it in taxes, depending on, or more. I'm talking about state taxes, depending on where you're going.
I'm not even mad at the agent about it. I mean, it's the business that I mean, if college football doesn't put parameters in.
Well, yeah. Again, thank you for this, Mark Emmert.
Yeah. But the fact that you can DM a kid that you don't have a relationship with, if you go in the portal, I can get you $200,000. I don't know many kids that can be like, I'm good. Now, there are some, but that is a lot to think about as a 19-year-old kid who's playing at Colorado State. And he's like, well, I mean, I can go play here. I can make this. I mean, why wouldn't I consider it?
Well, yeah, if you're at Colorado State, what I would wonder, though, is if you're at A&M or Texas or LSU, and I'm assuming you're getting paid something anyway, are you going to leave your team based on something, an agent that that you might not have a relationship with, because if you're getting paid at A&M, for instance, or Texas or LSU, are you going to get 20% more somewhere else? Well, because if you're worth that much, wouldn't your team be paying you that extra money?
You know who I blame on this?
There's so many, but I'd like to hear your
LeBron James. This is LeBron's fault.
So you take his talents to Miami?
And I'm kind of kidding here. Obviously, this is not LeBron's. But I think this generation of athlete grew up where it's okay to go team up with your friends and go to your rivals and go here and there. Like, it's fine. Like, it's accepted. The greatest player on the planet did it. Not of all time, by the way. but the best player in the world did it. And it's okay to go join your friends. It's okay not to have, you can go join your rivals. Not that LeBron joined the Cavs rivals, but my point is, there was a time people wouldn't do that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
remember when Johnny Damon did it? It was a big deal.
Yeah, coaches do it now, like baseball coaches.
I wasn't even thinking about that. That's true. They do that. But we live in a different world where, like growing up, I would have never thought about that, right? Like if Hakeem Olajuwon would have gone to the Mavericks, he'd be, hated forever, right? Like, and it's kind of just accepted today.
Really, the Rockets didn't have that big an issue with the.
I'm just saying going to another Texas team. Okay. Actually, the Spurs at that time were more the rival.
Okay.
The Mavs were terrible during those years. But I think you understand my point.
Right, I do. Like, I do understand where you're going.
I think in today's world, it's okay to go and be on other teams. Like, free agency opened up that door years ago that, all right, you don't have to spend your entire career with one franchise. But now you don't have to spend a whole season. You can just go somewhere else.
Yeah. Again, to my point, I just wonder how much more money you're getting. Like, all right, I know kids aren't not all kids are real savvy when it comes to taxes, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say if I'm at Texas or Texas A&M or Tennessee or Florida, and Georgia or Alabama or Ohio State, anybody in California wants to give me, like, again, I can get you 50% more than you're making now. So you're at 100,000. I can get you 200,000. And I wonder if they're savvy enough to understand. Okay, now, all right. First of all, he wants 20%, if that's correct. So that 200,000 is already down to 160. And now I'm going to get taxed like crazy because the tax man don't care if you're just and then you look up one day and it's not that big a difference. And I wonder if that look, if you're not playing, I'm with you 100%. Go get an opportunity to play.
What if you're not happy?
If you're not happy, if you got an issue with the coach, whatever. If you're not happy, but if you're just chasing the money, I wonder if they get to a point where they realize, I left a situation that might not have been too bad to try to make a little extra money, and the difference is not that great.
And I think that's sometimes a lesson we all have to learn by doing it. Not that I've ever been offered double salary to go elsewhere. I've never had that opportunity.
Right.
I can tell you for sure, if Orange Bloods called me tomorrow to be their main guy and double or tripled my salary, I'm not going. I'm good.
Wait, they're going to double or triple it?
Yeah. So I'll make $14. I'm kidding, but my point is, I wouldn't leave.
Okay.
Okay, OB.
Okay. They're going to triple it?
I'm not going to Orange Bloods. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm not.
I understand.
CanesFootball.com triples it. Maybe I'd consider it.
At this point in my career, I would not, because maybe I should at the end. Look.
Quality of life is too important to me, man. It really,
you know what? You're exactly right. I've told you this one time. I left a really good job and for a 50% raise. So so they were from 25,000 to whatever, but for a 50% raise, and my quality of life improved a little
financially,
but not enough that it may, we often regretted it.
Yeah. And so again, you have to sometimes be put in that position to really recognize your quality of life. People thought I was crazy leaving a TV station for TexAgs. Oh, look at me now. Like, mainstream media is not the most powerful entity, and companies like TexAgs are flourishing, and podcasters are flourishing. So, but to get back to this point, I understand wanting to get paid more. I understand wanting more playing time. I understand looking for happiness. But I don't like headhunters in this to like, hey, I'm just going to keep DMing until and make my $600,000 this year by getting all these guys. And again, I'm not blaming it on the agents. I'm blaming it on where we are in college football.
That said, if there's an agent out there who can deliver a big play wide receiver to Texas A&M,
you can do it.
Let's get it done.
Look, and isn't that the double-edged sword of it? Because I don't want to lose TJ Shanahan. I don't, right? I don't want to lose these guys. depth or maybe potentially starting next year. I don't want to lose anybody. I can't think of one. A couple years ago, there were players that I didn't mind leaving. Like, I'm looking at that list. I wish Connor would stay. Like, if it were my way, I'd like Connor to stay.
But you understand it because he's not going to start.
100% get it, right? And he's at an age right now where he's got to show on film that he can be an NFL caliber quarterback, right? And if it's not going to happen here, I get it. I wish he'd stay. I get it. But I really hope they get that wide receiver you're talking about. I hope they get 2 of them, right? So it's both sides of the fence. It's the current playground that we're allowed to play in, and I hope A&M maximizes everything that they can. I also hope people make decisions for the right reason. I want to go to A&M. I could see myself in this offense with Colin Klein and Marcel Reed throwing me the ball. I like the education. I like what it means to be an Aggie. J.D. Walker has been here a couple seasons now. He's an Aggie, right?
Yeah.
Dexter Dennis, basketball player, who was only here 1 season. To me, he feels like an Aggie. He didn't feel like a mercenary. He entered the culture. Yeah, he embraced the culture. He became part of it. And that's what I hope when people make these moves. It's not just, I'm going to go be a mercenary, go play somewhere else. But if that works for you, it works for you.
Yeah, well, again, it's the way it is. It's the way the game's played now.
Yeah.
And then you got to ask yourself as a program, well, are we going to adjust with the times? They are. And if that's the way the game's played, are we going to play it aggressively?
Right. Well, I'm not going to tell you the names that are visiting this week. You have to go be a premium subscriber and check out TexAgs.com. Bronny's got a great write-up there. Jason and Bronny have been working hard. But I will tell you this. Transfer portal visitors. Quarterback, we knew about that one. Zeno, that was announced yesterday. Mm-hmm. 2 wide receivers are visiting. Mm-hmm. Looks like 2 defensive ends are visiting.
Okay.
And a cornerback.
Seems like a lot of areas that the Aggies could use some help.
Yeah.
I wonder how they feel about their offensive line.
Well, they probably. I got 2 thoughts on that.
Young guys, they feel really good about.
They must feel really good about the young guys coming up, and they must feel really good about the guys that are so far here that they're not leaving.
Yeah. I do think the one thing that college football is finally, I don't think there's any business or whatever you want to call it, entity that fails more on its first try than college football, whether it's trying to figure out a playoffs format or whatever. And they're always tinkering, having to shorten the time. And are we down to now just 1 transfer portal
I believe
week a year? Usually it was 2 for a while. I don't know if it's down, but I think
it's 30 days now, 20 now, and then 10 later.
Yeah, I think they've shortened the window.
Yeah,
and I think that's good.
I still think the timing.
But sometimes they're going to have
though.
to do some things because in some ways you have to protect your business, and it's kind of running amok.
Well, later on in the show, we're going to talk about Kenny Dillingham and what he's doing with his players, because I think it's an interesting position to be in if you're a backup on one of these playoff teams, what you do if you want to go into the portal. And I'll share what Kenny Dillingham, the Arizona State coach, had to say about it. You're listening to TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin Buchanan. I'm David Nuño. And today is Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Where are we, OB? Like in the current area?
Right, we're in the cool zone.
We're in the cool zone. Yeah. Holistic planning cool zone.
Yeah, the holistic, where you can do investment, tax, and estate.
Investinprosports.com if you want to have a little piece in a pro sports franchise. They'll take care of you. Let's go around the room and say hi to the people. If you want to be a part of the conversation, 979-693-1150. We'll pick it up on the Boss Firearms Hotline. You could text that number as well. Behind the glass is where we find Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
What's up?
Well, I think it happened after we went off air, shortly after we went off air, but Nick Scorton declared for the draft yesterday. Saw it coming with all of his grades and whatnot. Of course, we were still all optimistic that maybe he'd want to run it back, but a big impact player in his 1 year at A&M, and it was really cool that he got to come home and he talked about how much it meant to him to play at Kyle Field in front of all of his family and friends and whatnot. So best of luck to him.
Yeah. I kind of expected it. I was hoping that he would have stayed for a little bit longer, but I get it. If you're going to get a first or second round pick, or grade, I should say, go get it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it yesterday. If a player stays beyond his 3 years and he's good, just assume that he's leaving.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't even have to be that productive and they'll leave. But and if you get it, yeah, then it's a great bonus. But you just assume you have to prepare yourself and understand that if they've been a productive player and after their third year, they're gone.
Well, I guess the Aggies are still waiting on Trey Zune to decide what he'll do. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back, but I also understand I don't know what kind of grade he'll get in the NFL draft. I think he could benefit from another year.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that'll probably get a nice NIL deal, probably a bump in whatever he was getting. I don't even know what that was. I kind of expect him to be back.
Yeah.
And maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that just contradicts what I said if you've been a productive player for 3 years. I know that he has, going back to his family, some strong ties and feelings about A&M.
Yeah.
And so he may be one of the few that buck the trend.
Yep. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Cooper Patterson making his last show. He'll be working for us for another day, but today's your last day at the Social Center. What's up, Coop?
Will be my last day. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
I'm doing good.
Hey, so would you leave us for Orange Bloods if they would triple your?
No, Cooper's old school soul. I know this answer, right?
I'd probably go to Orange Bloods if they paid me.
Triple?
Triple.
If it's triple your salary
zero.
here,
triple to zero is zero.
But 0 times 3 is 0.
Well, probably not then.
Wait, hold on.
But if he was going to get paid,
hold on, you would go to Orange Bloods for triple?
No, I was joking. I couldn't do that. I couldn't pretend. I can't even pretend to root for that school or like cover them or anything.
And just by the way, I wouldn't expect Ketch or any of the guys at Orange Bloods, Anwar, to come here for triple. Like
yeah, I would.
You would?
I would expect them to.
Huh.
Especially a guy like Anwar, who's not, who didn't grow up with.
Oh, he's not a Longhorn?
No, he's from Florida.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, I can see.
He's a good reporter, too.
Yeah, he's a very good reporter. All right, Coop, what do you have for us?
I want to talk about both those guys, or not both those guys. One of the guys we just mentioned was
Ketch and Anwar?
No. Nick Scorton and Shamar Stewart, who both just declared for the NFL draft yesterday. They'll be greatly missed. While their total numbers weren't incredible this year, what we wanted them to be, Nick Scorton ranked 13th in the SEC with 34 total pressures, and Shamar Stewart ranked 16th with 30 total pressures. So while their counting stats, at least in the later half of the season, weren't exactly what we wanted them to be, what we hoped for them to be, they're still making huge impact. And from just looking at the game, saw Shamar Stewart getting held probably more than any other player in the country.
He did get held a lot. He did. There was a lot of holding there.
They're both good guys.
Yeah.
And of course, selfishly, I hope that they would come back. Understand that it was quite unlikely that they would. And because they're both such good guys, I hope that they both have long, distinguished, and very lucrative NFL careers.
Yep.
I'll be rooting for them.
Coop, one more.
So last week, I brought up a few interesting Aggie basketball stats, and I want to just kind of go back to them and see how they stood. So one of them was that A&M had only won in games in which they shot 20-plus free throws. So that stat was broken in both of the games that the Aggies just played. They won shooting 17 against Wake Forest and 18 against Tech. But the Aggies have still only won when they've shot more free throws than the other team. So against UCF and Oregon, they both shot a lot less free throws than the other team. Second stat is the Aggies had only won in games where Henry Coleman had scored double-digit points. That stat was also just broken this week, as he scored 5 points when we won against the Red Raiders this week.
Oh, that's right. He only had 5 in that one. Yeah. Good stats. Thank you, Coop. Appreciate you. We'll hit a break here. When we come back, Performance of the Week, we might be bringing up a couple Aggie basketball players, maybe a team that's moving on to the Sweet 16 as well. Right now, let's talk Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs to get $50 once you play in $5 lineups. So we're in December, and you get some new options for crafting lineups where you can win up to 100 times with 5 and 6 pick power plays with Picksmiths on the horizon. Lock in with all month long to make sure you're not missing a thing. They got 100 times payouts, 5 and 6 power plays, Picksmiths. So it'll be a great way to be a part of it.
So I could bet $5 and have a chance to win $500.
According to the notes they sent me,
man, I need $500.
I could use $500.
I could use $500.
Yeah. So what you need to do is OB, you've already done this though, but PrizePicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs. Get $50 once you play in $5 lineups, and make sure you're doing all these games. It'll be fun. It is Prize Picks. And we're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin Buchanan. I'm David Nuño. All right, let's do a little performance of the week. All right, and I think I'll let you have the first one because I think it'll be easy. Who's your first person on performance of the week?
Well, this Lednicki girl, right?
Oh, there you go.
So much
Aggie
about.
volleyball,
I didn't
yeah.
see it, but hey, they're going to the Sweet 16. I think what they tell us yesterday, 27 kills or something like that.
Yeah,
man,
27
or
kills,
something like that, right?
Logan Lednicki, and let's just give the whole Aggie women's volleyball team props.
Yeah,
we're gonna have Jamie Morrison in the studio here in a little bit. So
what a job that guy's done.
Yeah,
man, that guy's going to get a raise.
He better get a raise.
Well, I mean, because he actually deserves it. He's gone beyond what
the expectations
are.
Now, I'll give him this. He expected to be in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, and right.
He expected it.
Right, but he's taken the program somewhere it hadn't been in a long time, where usually A&M just gives extensions and raises for doing what you're supposed to do. So, yeah, but this guy's actually earned it. Beyond him.
And I'll just say this. They're taking on Wisconsin, who beat them earlier in the season. Wisconsin, I think it's the 7th-ranked team in the country. So they'll have their hands full against the team. But
you know what? Remember the Dreamweaver?
I do.
Remember what they did last year?
They beat Tennessee at the final. They lost
Georgia.
Georgia, excuse me, you're right.
And they lost them twice earlier.
And then they beat them at the end.
So, yeah. So beat them. Beat the Badgers.
Beat the Badgers.
And then, of course, Wade Taylor.
Got to give Wade Taylor his props.
Because not only did he score a game high, a team high 19 points, but again, when what was it? 8 of those were in the last 3 minutes.
He went to the line. He attacked the rim. He did it all.
Got big shots for you. So Wade Taylor, what a great player.
How about we give one more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jace Carter.
16
points. They needed that during that first half stretch.
At one point, a 13-0 run, and it was all from Jace Carter, if I'm not mistaken. Hitting threes, breakaway dunks. Man, if that could be what we get from Jace Carter the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting 16 points a game.
Or 5 of 6 from the field.
Right? But and you know what? He had
struggled. What he's capable of.
He struggled a little bit earlier in the year. So getting that production from him was huge.
Well, let's be honest. A&M offensively is inconsistent, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we see guys break out, have a huge game, and sometimes we see them kind of struggle. If all this A&M team really needs, especially on the offensive end, and I don't know if they're ever going to have it, but it's just consistency. They don't have to be outstanding like Jace was. But, man, if you could get 8 to 10 from Jace on a pretty consistent basis, you know.
Yeah, you get 8 to 10 from Jace Carter along with the – and by the way, let's not forget Anderson Garcia not only had a rough game, he didn't finish the game.
He had probably the worst game of his career at Texas A&M.
That's what Buzz said yesterday, yeah.
And did he? He said his work. And he still made some positive contributions. But and they were still able to win.
They were. Solo played big.
Solo played really big. He gives an element of toughness. He had a couple of big three-pointers that were really important at a time when the game was kind of pivotal, and just some big rebounds and
Hey, maybe I have different eyes. You were at the game. I was watching on TV, and the broadcaster was like, Solo and Anderson Garcia are such similar players. I'm like, I don't think they're similar players. I think he was just saying what a luxury to have, and I agree with the luxury. When Anderson Garcia goes out, Solomon Washington comes in. I don't find them to be similar players. I think that they both bring a certain tenacity to the floor. I find Solo to be more of a guy who's going to beat you with athleticism, and I look at Andy and his length and defensive, toughness is. And I think Andy's got great defense too, but Andy really does play the Dominican Rodman style.
Yeah, but I think maybe what they're getting at is, both of them can, while not looked at to be big scorers, can pop out and hit a three for you when you need to, and both of them are strong rebounders, even though Anderson does it at a completely different level, but you can get that from Solo. I'm kind of with you. They don't. Look, their results are quite similar. The roles that they're in are quite similar. The way they get there may be a little more different than what you're getting.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. We'll come back. I do want to get into what Kenny Dillingham had to say because I think it's an interesting philosophy. There's some coaches that have a different one. We'll talk about that. We got some more to get into here, A&M football-wise, as we get ready for the game against USC. Throughout the show, we're going to have Justin Lanham at 9 o'clock. We have Jamie Morrison at 9:20. Jace Sternberger at 9:35. What do we have? At 10 o'clock, we have Dennis Dodd, your buddy from CBS Sports.
Okay.
And at 10:35, we have a USC insider. So we'll break this up down with a USC insider.
I'll have to be sure to listen to that.
All right, 1775. So we've talked about how much we love the meat. We've talked about how much we love the queso mac and cheese. I feel like we should give them something different today. I like talking about the environment there because it is
fun.
It is a cool place to go, and it's like it's not Cheers, but everybody does know your name when you walk in there.
I think everybody knows your name wherever you go.
No, I don't think so. I think they know your name.
But I think when you go into 1775, you can make a friend that you didn't have before.
You've had it
You
done.
can sit down and talk to somebody that you haven't met before. And hey, if you can't become friends over barbecue, over pork ribs and smoked, perfectly smoked brisket and some queso mac and cheese and some sausage and chicken and ham, all those things.
There's never been a fight at a barbecue joint that I can think of.
I've never known one.
No, you know what people what they do? They give hugs.
First of all, you're just you can't be mad while you're experiencing that level of Texas barbecue.
Who's been mad with ribs in their mouth? Nobody.
Never me.
No, sausage never. Open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m. 8203 Raymond Stusser Parkway in College Station, 979-492 6241.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
And we're back on the program. We call it TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It's the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. As a reminder, the final segment of the show is brought to you by Double Dave's. That is at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150 will hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on their way. Obi, what would be your philosophy if you had a college football playoff team, okay? And you've got guys that want to enter the portal? Would you say, see ya, or would you be like, enter the portal, and but just help us as long as you can?
Depending on the player.
So here's what Kenny Dillingham had to say about it, okay? And again, Arizona State's at a different level. But our guys have the opportunity to stay on our football team. And they're like, we'll go in the portal at the end. And I go, no. That's not fair to you to go in after your run is over. I want you to have the best opportunity to find a spot. You can go in day one right now. We'll help you find a spot, stay on our football team if you want to stay on our football team. And let's go on this ride together the rest of the way.
Look, I understand that. And that's the right of is he saying, look, if you're going to the portal, go. If you want to be on this football team, stay on this football team.
He's saying go in the portal, but you can stay on the football team. Because there are some, like I believe Sark, I might be wrong on this, but I believe Sark has a philosophy. You're in the portal, you're out. Right.
And quite frankly, I like that approach, but not every team can afford to do that.
Right.
So with Arizona State, I'm completely get it. Hey, yeah, look, go in the portal. We get it, but stay on our team to try to help us win.
Yep.
This isn't something that happens very often. I think maybe 96, Arizona State had a chance to win the national championship. And they lost the Rose Bowl to Ohio State.
That's right.
But since then, what is there? Arizona State, they were ranked 15th playing A&M in the season opener in Houston. And Christian Kirk's freshman year, they lost and their season imploded.
Mm-hmm.
They've never... They rarely have that opportunity. So I just what I'm saying is it's not a one size fits all kind of situation, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what I don't know how I feel. I don't know because I like the thought process behind Dillingham, but I guess if you're a certain level program, like if you go, we'll find somebody else.
Nick Saban Alabama under Nick Saban probably would have said, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Right.
Right?
What if it's your quarterback, though?
You say that, but what has happened to UNLV this year? They played for the conference championship, and their starting quarterback left the team in week 4, right?
And people have forgotten who he is, right?
Yeah.
And he was a name that people were talking about.
And quite frankly, somebody will take him, but I wouldn't.
Yep.
Why? Because I don't want a guy that'll leave his team in a lurch. Of course, we got to know the details behind it. I just think I think it depends on the player and the program in that situation there. I completely understand Sarkisian's his approach, and I completely get it with Dillingham having a different approach.
I'm okay with it being situational too. Not like, well, I don't want to say, like you should probably have one rule for your team, but I'm okay with programs just having different standards based on the level of their program.
Yeah. Look, if I had a guy that is a contributor, but his role is somewhat limited, maybe he's a really good special teams player and he wants to play running back. And he's not going to get in front of Scatterboo.
Right.
But man, he can still help us. And I'm going to say, why don't you just stick with us? Enjoy this ride. This is amazing. And then, we'll help you.
Right.
I don't know that I have a problem with that.
Yeah. What I think Kenny's doing, though, is like go in now so you can talk and have these visits, but just be all in for our football team when we need you.
And you know what? And it seems, can you do that as a player? Can you be talking to somebody else, another team, and be all in?
I think you can. I
think you can too.
Like when you're on the field, you're a warrior. You're battling, right? Like I don't think you're like Now, if you're missing certain meetings and you don't know the game plan, that's a different
story.
But I'm talking about like the will to win should not change based on that.
And so therefore, I don't necessarily, and he would get all kinds of criticism for this if he did this, but I don't necessarily think that the same rule has to apply to every athlete.
Yeah.
Well, you let him keep playing. Why aren't you letting me? Okay, because I can tell this guy is completely bought into what we're doing.
And I can't tell that you
and
are.
I can't say that about you.
Yeah. Here's another quote for you. And I like this one, Kalen DeBoer.
Okay.
Because there's been a little bit of complaining from Alabama, as you know.
You think?
Greg Byrne has a little bit to say. And his response, which I think was the same response I would have had if I was A&M out. Got to make sure that it's not in other people's hands. Keep ourselves focused on that next year. Just knowing that the process doesn't always end up how you think it is, how you think it's going to go. But the first line there, got to make sure it's not in other people's hands. That is it. That's how you capture that moment.
Well, that's really the only way you should respond as a coach, because anything else just opens you up to so much criticism. Because all anybody has to say is, well, hey, why don't you just beat Oklahoma?
Yeah,
like everybody else did. But no, not you. You know, so why are you complaining if you didn't beat Oklahoma? So I don't know. I wonder if he truly feels that way. But even if he doesn't, that's the right thing to say. Did you hear what Pete Lanning said about
Dan Lanning?
I'm sorry, Dan Lanning about who the hell's Pete Lanning? Dan Lanning,
his uncle.
Yeah, Uncle Pete. About their role. However they're the number one seed, and yet they look like they have one of the more difficult. And he said, you know what? It's a great opportunity. We're going to have to play the best teams anyway, so why not just play them right away?
Right.
I don't know if he actually believes that.
But I think that's the answer.
But that's the answer you have to give.
You've got to have that.
Without sounding like a whiny old person.
And by the way, your team feeds off of that.
Yes.
If your team hears you complaining about the road you got to go, they're going to start complaining about, oh, man, how are we going to do this? We got to beat Tennessee. We got to beat this team. We got to beat that team. Look, talk show hosts and coaches should have different talking points. Right? Like, we could complain for them.
Yes.
Like, I think Oregon, and it's the system that is in place, got screwed, in my opinion, for their first matchup. Right? I think the 5 seed, regardless if it was Texas or someone else, had an easier path. Like, the way it was set up, I think it was an easier path. I liked your idea of reseeding completely, 1 through 16, or one and taking it that way.
Well, first of all, go to 16. And then, just because you have a first-round bye and maybe they'll even review that, but just because you have a first-round bye and that's why you have to go to 16, by the way. As a conference champion, you get a first-round bye. Doesn't mean you're one of the top 4 teams.
So this is not as easy of a question to answer as I thought it would be. Would you rather be Texas and have to play Clemson, Arizona State, or would you rather be Oregon having to take on the winner of Tennessee and what am I forgetting? Tennessee and Ohio State.
I would probably rather have the path that Texas has.
I do too, and that sounds so weird to say it, right? Because 2 games, 1, anything can happen, but I still think Texas is significantly better than both Arizona State and Clemson.
I think they're significantly better than Clemson.
You're not sure about Arizona State?
I think they're better than Arizona State. I'm not sure about significantly after what I saw the other day.
Yeah. And I don't know if Oregon is significantly better than Ohio State.
Well, they beat Ohio State by 1 point at home when the Ohio State quarterback flaked and prevented Ohio State from having a field goal opportunity to win.
And I don't know if they're better than an SEC team in Tennessee. Tennessee is one of those teams that I look at their record, I think they're really good, but are they really that good? Like,
I think I'm going to pick Tennessee over Ohio State.
And then would you pick Tennessee over Oregon?
No, I don't think I would. But I think I'm going to have to look at it more, but it just seems to me that Tennessee matches up really well with Ohio State. They have good receivers. Yeah. Ohio State's secondary is kind of iffy, and they tend to hold a lot. They have a good running game. Tennessee
really
does.
Good running game, yeah.
And they have a good run defense, and Ohio State doesn't run the ball very well.
Right.
I might change my mind before then, but right now I'm kind of thinking.
But I think the path, and Texas fans are going to be like, you just come out. I just think the path might be easier taking on two teams.
Look, I would take either Ohio State or Tennessee. I'd pick them over Clemson.
Yeah.
And I would pick them both over Arizona State or whoever.
Yeah.
Yes, I do think that both of those teams are stronger than the teams that Texas will face or might face. That's just my opinion. That's not to knock at Texas or to diminish anything that Texas face. I'm just saying I think Ohio State and Tennessee are better than those teams on the other side of the bracket.
And then regionally, I didn't really think about Notre Dame and Indiana, but it's not a rivalry, but they are 200 miles away from each other.
That's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah. I like Signetti. I like him a lot.
I have to take Indiana in that one.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Look, I know Indiana hadn't done anything, right? I mean, they lost to Ohio State in one game that mattered. But what has Notre Dame done? They beat A&M when A&M was their quarterback's having the worst day of his life, and maybe they contributed to that.
Yep.
But there were open receivers that he just flat missed.
They beat Army.
Okay.
They beat USC by 14.
No disrespect to Army, but
yeah.
I think they're living a little bit of a lie.
Yeah. Well,
even though they handled Tulane pretty well.
They handled them big time, yeah.
But they played USC.
They won by 14, but it was close.
Yeah, I mean there was a pick six and some other thing. That was not a dominant win by any means. And there's been some other. Yeah, I don't know. That game's going to be interesting. It's
setting up for Notre Dame and Texas in the championship. You know that, right? The two teams A&M started and ended their season with.
Yeah, they won't be in the championship.
Yeah. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with the final segment of the Go Hour. Then we'll get to Justin Lanham at 9 o'clock. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They're on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. Locally owned and operated by Aggie alumni. They are fantastic. They're the premier dealer for commercial vehicles for all of your small business needs. They want you to make that short drive, to Caldwell to experience a car buying experience like never before. They have a huge inventory selection to fit most needs, and they make long-lasting relationships with all of their customers. They're just south of big city prices, and they promise to treat you like family. I experienced it. You can experience it as well. And remember, free oil changes for life on the life of the purchase of your vehicle from Caldwell Country Chevrolet. We're talking about a 15-minute drive. Brian and Caldwell, short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. All right, we're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. I was trying to figure out what Lane Kiffin's, motivation was. He posted, Duke quarterback Malik Murphy plans to enter the transfer portal via ESPN. He's posting it. I was thinking maybe that's his way of trying to get his next quarterback, but OB brought up a great point. That's where they're playing in the bowl game.
You know what? I wonder if there's any legalities to this and I think they had this rule and then dropped it, but they say you get one transfer where you don't have to sit out. One. And if you transfer a second time, you have to sit out a year.
Yeah.
Because this is getting just out of hand.
It is getting out of hand.
And they used to have the rule.
What, Bear Alexander's about to transfer again?
Yeah.
He's transferred,
when you go
times?
back to high school, he's like transferred 7 times in 6 years or something like that.
Am I right? I might be wrong here. Did he leave USC and come back? I might be wrong, but I feel like he's transferred 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to tag that bear so they can keep up with where he goes.
Right.
Like they, yeah. If you can, if there's no legal thing keeping you from doing it, they need to bring back that rule that if you transfer and give them one free transfer, but if you transfer more than once, you got to sit out a year.
Right.
Because at some point you got to protect your business as well.
Yeah.
And this really look, if you made a mistake one time when you realize, or the coaching staff changed or whatever, and you wanted to okay, we get it.
We get that. Yeah.
You're 18 years old coming out of high school. That's such a big decision you have to make, and you're a kid. Maybe you made a mistake. But if you made a second mistake, now that's on you because you didn't spend enough time figuring out where you should go. So you can still transfer, but you're gonna have to, if you want to play, you got to sit out a year.
Yep.
I think that would if you could do that, I think that would solve a lot of the problems.
Yeah. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Try to get a text message before we hit a break.
Yeah, so Trey from Bryan says, we may be understanding the value of playing one less game after a long season. Playing 2 games is an extra chance for a key injury. He's talking about Texas having to play 2 different
I agree with
teams.
that. Yeah, I agree with that. I also would rather play 2 games against a team that I know that I have more talent than taking on a team that's maybe not the same talent, but close. I mean, Oregon's got the same talent.
You can make the argument, though, that if you've played that extra game, you stay a little sharper than a team that. How many times have we in the past did you see a bowl game and after being out a month, a team just doesn't look like the same team or it's not nearly as sharp? So that team that actually plays that extra game, we'll have to wait and see, but they may have a little bit of an edge because, hey, they're sharper. They're still on their game.
But there is something to getting injured against, there's injuries in the lesser opponents.
You can play, but if you're going to play afraid of getting injured, don't play.
Don't play football, yeah. OB, good hour, buddy. Thank you very much. All right, when we come back on TexAgs Live, we've got Justin Lanham. We got some basketball to get into. We got the big Purdue game coming up this weekend, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about what happened just a couple nights ago there in Fort Worth. We've also got Jamie Morrison coming to the studio. That'll be fun to talk about the Sweet 16 heading to Nebraska. We'll follow that up with an interview with Jace Sternberger, Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports, and then we will close it out with a USC insider. We'll get to your text messages at 979-693-1150. You're listening and watching TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. That's where we find Justin Lanham to break down some little Aggie basketball. Justin, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm good, man. What's new in your world?
Man, I just got back from California this past weekend. Was out there for a little business trip. So
Wow.
weather was nice. Got to play a little golf. So things are good, man.
So let's talk about this Aggie basketball team, because it doesn't feel like last year or the years in the past where they've struggled, yet they still got a gauntlet ahead of them, right? Like, not even in the non-conference alone. Just if you just look at like SEC rankings in the top 25 and who they're going to be taking on over the next few weeks, and obviously the entire SEC season, like this team is going to be battle tested, aren't they?
Yeah, they're for sure battle tested. You know, the unfortunate thing is you kind of wish that you could say, oh, well, you know, those tough days are behind us, but they're ahead of you too, you know, and what you're about to face in the SEC. I mean, I think this is as good as the SEC has been in basketball in a while. And that's saying something, because I think, you know, SEC basketball has been good the last couple of years. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be tough, but the thing that excites me is, you said it, battle tested. They've seen some of this competition. And not only that, they've seen a lot of this competition on the road in neutral environments, you know, and something that Buzz has talked about a lot is a lot of these neutral game sites. Those teams have had a lot of their fans there. And so it's felt like tournament games. And I think just the environment that these guys have had to play in is going to be, has been tough. And so hopefully they get to get in front of a Reed Arena crowd and it feel a little bit different.
Well, Justin, I was going to read you the stat that I actually read to Buzz yesterday. So Purdue on Saturday is going to be their 6th straight game versus a power conference team in the 8th of the fall. I mean, like, they're 8-2, and you can make an argument they should be 10-0, right? Like, you can absolutely make that argument. But just thinking about what they've already started with, man, what a run.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the types of teams that they've seen some bigs, some really solid bigs in Creighton and Oregon, and then just what they saw in Texas Tech. You know, I mean, I think it's preparing them well for the SEC. It's not like they've seen some of this talent or some of these things that they're not going to see. It's going to translate, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I think it's going to translate to some of these SEC games.
So what about the end of these games? Like, the resolve it takes to win. Like, look, they won without Anderson Garcia. Obviously, offensively, he doesn't always contribute to the double-digit numbers that some of the other guys do, but he is a factor offensively at times. He's certainly a factor defensively with his rebounding. But just like, sometimes I don't love the offense, but Wade Taylor with the ball in his hand at the end of games, I mean, he's either going to draw a foul, he's going to get his shot off. He's something positive usually happens when he's got the ball in his hands at the end of games.
Yeah, and it did. It definitely did on Sunday. And his ability, especially late in the game, to get downhill and kind of hit that little floater off the glass, I think was huge. He did that multiple times. And I think that they saw something that they liked, and you know, picking on some defenders that they wanted to pick and choose, you know. And I think that you saw Wade do that. I think we see Manny do that a lot. I know, like, whenever he goes to the head tap, he's usually ISOing on one side of the floor, and then he tries to back his defender down. And he's been pretty good at his little fadeaway shot. And I think he was doing that because he was kind of trying to pick on that smaller defender. And then I think at the end of the game, you saw Wade do that, and he was able to get downhill and finish, like I said, with the floater off the glass. And so, again, just that's Wade Taylor, again, stepping up in big moments.
So you mentioned Manny there. He doesn't have the numbers that he had at the end of last year. Who do you think, I mean, maybe Zurich Phelps, who do you think is the second option on this team, or is it going to kind of depend on a particular night?
I think it kind of depends on a particular night. However, I think it's got to be Phelps. I think that just his capabilities and what he can do, I still do not feel like he's settled in. I still think his best basketball is ahead of him. You can just tell, you know, sometimes fumbling the ball, some turnovers that shouldn't happen, you know, are still there for him. But I think that stuff's going to get shored up over time. But I definitely think it's Phelps. But the great thing about this team is, man, it can come from anybody. Jace Carter can come off the bench and have the game that he did. Solomon Washington hitting 2 threes in the game against Tech on Sunday. You know, just guys step up when they're called on, and that's what's impressive to me.
What do you like about Phelps's game so far? Because I feel like he's still not 100% comfortable in the system, but we've seen flashes of it.
Yeah, I like how quick he is and how he can get downhill. One of my basketball coaches always used to tell me, it was the old John Wooden quote, "Be quick, but don't hurry." And so I wish I could tell him that, hey, be quick, but don't hurry. Don't get in too big of a hurry whenever you're trying to make the moves that you're playing, that you're trying to get to the basket. I think he does a pretty good job of changing pace. And as a guard, that's what you have to do. You have to change pace, go from slow and then to quick at times. And I think he does that really well. I don't know if, he's still got the bandage on the thumb. I don't know if that's still affecting him some, of just holding on to the ball at times in traffic. But you see that I feel like the ball gets knocked out of his hands at times. But I do feel like as he continues to get more reps and as he continues to play, I think you're going to see some special things out of him this year.
And then back to Manny for a minute. What do you need to see from him this year?
Yeah, I think just being patient. Like, he can get his just about at any time. Like, he's as athletic as they come. And so as long as he's patient, I think that he's gonna be just fine. I think sometimes he tries to force the action a little bit too much. And you see that whenever they go into that ISO, and they trust him with that. That's a play. That is a design formation that they're getting into, of him tapping the side of the head, getting onto one side of the floor, the other 4 guys spaced out on the other side. I think you started to see Tech come off of try to double him even to get the ball out of his hands whenever he went to that a couple of times. And if he can be patient and find the open guy in those moments, man, I think that's going to help this team so much. So if teams like Tech are doubling off of him, and you can find a Wade Taylor, you can find a Jace Carter or somebody like that on the backside, Wilcher on the backside, I think that that can help our offense tremendously.
How about a healthy Henry Coleman this year and the difference he's made?
Yeah, I mean, what he's doing on the boards, what he's doing inside, just his leadership, the play that he made with the he's falling out of bounds and he throws the ball behind his back to a guy in transition to get an easy, 2 points. I mean, just super special. I mean, he's obviously he's one of my favorite guys to watch. I mean, you just know what you're going to get from him. And I think in today's day and age of just college sports, I think consistency is key. And I think he gives you a lot of consistency. And so you have to respect that from him.
One of the things I really loved about the game against Texas Tech was they limited their turnovers and they forced double the amount of turnovers. Like that, when you aren't getting to the line as much as you like, and, I think, was it 14 in that game? It might have been 60, 18? Okay, and I know the magic number for them is getting to at least 20. But they forced 18 turnovers. I mean, that's a recipe to continue with the offensive rebounding that they already get. That's how you get these more possessions.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether that's a live ball turnover or not, you're giving yourself more opportunities and you're taking away their shots at the basket. And so I think that they were able to speed them up and get them into some uncomfortable situations. That's what I love about this team is you got a guy like Solomon Washington that can guard, a 6-foot guard if he needs to, but he can also guard the 6'7", forward. And I think at times when Solomon's on those guards, it almost makes those guys feel like they can't breathe a little bit because he's got so much length. And so somebody that I want to, that we don't talk about a lot that I do want to say something about is Hayden Hefner, his ability to deflect balls and just his length, that needs to be talked about because I think sometimes we're a little hard on him. But I do think that he does a great job whenever he's on the floor of just kind of impacting the game in ways that don't show up in the stat box. So I just wanted to point that out. I think he's done a great job.
Offensively, do you think they're a better team than they were last year?
I do, because I think some guys are finding some confidence, especially if you can get what you got. I'm not saying Jace Carter's got to come in and do exactly what he did against Texas Tech, but if he can knock down shots and have confidence, like he was shooting that ball from the corner, he had so much confidence. You could see it. He was stepping into his shot. He knew he was shooting the ball basically before he even caught it. if we can get Wilcher off the bench and get him some shots, I think that's just going to free everything else up. That's going to free Wade Taylor up. That's going to make the floor feel so much bigger, because then you're going to have lanes to drive. But when you can't shoot the ball from outside, it just makes everything so much tougher, because the defense is able to basically sit in the paint. They're able to help off of guys, and you just can't have that. So I think having Jace, having Wilcher, maybe having Hefner, obviously Wade, those guys shoot the ball from outside better. And look, I said it on Sunday. I don't love necessarily Solomon Washington shooting the ball from outside a ton, but if he can do that, and you've got to respect him because he's hit 2 threes now, I think that's just going to make us even tougher to guard.
Let's talk about C.J. Wilcher for a second. He's a guy that I like to see more of. You mentioned that a moment ago. What do you like about his game? I know he gives the team some range.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that he I guess spaces the floor out well. You can't come off of him. If he's in the corner and you've got a slot drive on the same side of when he's in the corner, you can't help off of him at all. And so it just gives those guards a little bit more of a lane to drive. So the spacing part of that's key, but then also just, I think he's lethal from outside. I mean, if he has an open look, I have a really good feeling that it's going in almost every time. And so his ability to come down off of pin downs, that's going to open up the floor a lot too. And so he does some really good things. The only thing sometimes defensively, I will say, I think maybe he gives up a little bit more than some of these other more athletic guys. But that's just a trade-off, that you have to have sometimes. You've got an athletic guy that can defend, but maybe he can't shoot the three. And so you bring in Wilcher because he does give you the ability to shoot the ball from outside.
So Pharrell Payne is another guy that I like watching out there. I feel like he's fitting in nicely, but still hasn't completely found his rhythm and his place on the team. What have you seen from his game so far?
Yeah, I think I really like when he's got his back to the basket. He's got a nice little over the shoulder hook shot. He has the ability to get to that. And then on the defensive end, I just think he's kind of a vulture around the rim. I mean, just to be able to have that size, the ability to affect shots whenever guys are driving the lane. And then also going back to the offensive side, I think that we've seen him kind of be in that dunker spot, like as Wade Taylor's driving or as Phelps is driving, he can sit in that dunker spot and you can throw it up to him and he's going to finish at the rim. He's going to play above the rim. And so I think he's really special. I think you're right. I don't think we've seen his best games yet. I think he's got a lot of that coming, especially in SEC play. So I'm excited for that.
What do you know about Purdue this season?
Yeah, I know that they shoot the ball well from outside. They've got 5 guys that have played significant minutes that shoot over 42% from beyond the arc, and that's concerning to me. I think that Matt Painter's teams are always tough, and then also I don't think they play a lot of guys that have transferred in, so they've got a lot of consistency. They've got guys that have been in his system for a while, and so to me, that's just tells me that they're going to be extremely disciplined. They're going to know what they're doing. They're not going to have guys that are confused about what their role is. They're going to know what to expect. And so it's going to be a fun game, but it's going to be a tough one for the Ags.
A little snapshot. They only have 3 non-conference games left before they start their SEC play. It's already here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's here. But like we said early on, the Aggies are battle tested. They've seen some great talent. But looking forward, I mean, I don't know what the stat is. Y'all maybe be able to pull it up, but 7 teams in the top 25 of the SEC? I mean, that's just crazy, So, and a lot of those teams are in the top 10, So I don't know that I expected OU to be up there. They're up there. Tennessee, Auburn. I mean, it's just going to be Alabama. It's going to be some really solid games in the SEC this year.
Well, I'm trying to pull up the top 25 just to kind of go through it with you because you look at it, man, and I didn't even realize Oklahoma was also in that mix. But you've got Tennessee, you've got Auburn, you've got Kentucky, all in the top 5. 3 of the top 5. You've got Alabama at 7. You've got Florida at 9. You've got Oklahoma at 13. You've got A&M, obviously, at 17. You've got Ole Miss at 19. And you have Mississippi State at 25. That's just ridiculous, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I think a lot of times, we talk about how good the Big 12 is. And, a lot of times that's the truth. The Big 12 is solid at basketball. But man, the SEC basketball this year is going to be really fun to watch. And just the athleticism and the bigs that I just love SEC basketball from that standpoint. And so it's going to be fun. It's going to be really interesting down the stretch, but I like our chances just because of who we've played. Buzz has set this team up for success because of who he played in the non-conference.
But when you play these tough teams, it can do the opposite too, right? Like you lose a couple of these, like it's a gamble, and it's paid off so far for Buzz. But like you lose a couple of them, and now your season feels completely different, where your fan base isn't as invested, and your players are like wondering if you're going to be able to get out of this.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it can go one of two ways, and that's the risk you're willing to take, especially now. And I think, we sat on the opposite side of this, 2 or 3 years ago, whenever, you miss out on the NCAA tournament because of strength of schedule. So I think you roll the dice and just hope that it turns out in your favor. And especially whenever you have a team full of seniors like you do, and just kind of the leadership that you have on this team, I think you're willing to take that risk and you say, hey, no one else is going to bet on us, so let's bet on ourselves. And I think that's what Buzz did this year.
So what do they have to do here to continue this kind of vibe? Look, they're not going to sweep every top 25 team they play. And there's going to be some games down the way that you should win that you don't end up winning. But what do you have to see more of the rest of the way?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. You can't have what we had last year. I think we can't have that lull of a stretch where it's just like, man, what is going on? So I think the big word for me is just consistency. I think that's the biggest thing for these guys. Obviously, our defense has been really solid this year and kept us in games, and the reason that we're winning some of these games down the stretch. But I think offense has got to really step up, and it's got to be something that maybe we can hang our hat on some of these games when maybe our defense isn't as good. So, but overall, I would just say that we have to be consistent.
Justin, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, David.
See ya. Justin Lanham here on the Boss Firearms Hotline. We'll hit a break. Jamie Morrison's already in the back. We'll chit-chat with him here in a moment, talk about the Sweet 16 run and how this great season has gone for the Aggie volleyball team. Right now, FBS Appliance and their team of experts are here to help you with the appliances that make your house a home. They carry all the top brands to make your life easier with appliances that fit any budget. They've been caring for Texas since 1988. FBS Appliance has your trusted brands, like Bosch, expert staff, trained installers to guide you through their purchase. They pride themselves on offering a comprehensive solution that sets them apart from the competition. They specialize in providing top-notch sales and installing services for leading brands, ensuring a seamless customer experience. Committed to that customer satisfaction at the core of what they do. They have 8 showrooms across Texas. They got one right down the road here on Welborn in College Station. Visit them online at factorybuilderstores.com. It is FBS. Social media was popping on Saturday after A&M's volleyball team won, and then moving on to the Sweet 16 to talk all about it. Jamie Morrison is here. Coach Morrison, hello, sir.
I'm back.
You're back. I told you.
I earned the right to come back into the studio.
And you'll come back, and you'll come back, and you'll keep coming back.
True that.
It's been fun, man. Just obviously at this point, it's Tuesday. You guys are traveling tomorrow, so you're thinking about the Wisconsin. Like, I get it, but just what did that weekend mean for you, for this program, to do what I think you expected to do?
Yeah, and I came here with the vision of what this program has been and should be, and this has been a perennial Sweet 16 team. It's been something where that's almost a consistent, that's a constant, and my first goal when I got here was to bring it back to that. And I didn't know if it would happen in 2 years, and it took a lot of work. It took a lot of buy-in from our athletes, and I'm just proud of all of that has culminated in the fact that we're back where this program belongs, in the Sweet 16.
When did you know this weekend we're going to win this? I mean, I you probably stepped on the court knowing it, but like, was there a moment during the last match against Arizona State you're like, we got this?
It was 5 points in, like 6.
Really?
It's not, and it's not like we got this. It's just, I think as a coach, you get into a match where you're like, it's a good matchup. Your team is in the right mindset. Like, that was the biggest thing. It was, we got into that match and we're in a tournament, and I thought in the match before that, Colorado State was an amazing volleyball team. We're going to talk a lot about Arizona State here, but Colorado State, that was a gauntlet.
Yeah.
And just to have gotten through that, and I talked to the team right before we stepped on the floor, I said, we're the only team here that's been battle tested so far. And I thought when we stepped out, there was this confidence, and then there was just this joy that we were playing with, of being in the moment, in the arena, in the tournament. It's really, really hard to get your team to a mind space of that. And once we had that, I was like, man, we're good. We're enjoying competing right now. We're enjoying being in this moment right now. And I get chills as I'm saying that, because that's huge when your team gets there. And when I felt that, when I was like, all right, we're here, I was like, we can beat anybody right now. So, and I mean that going for the rest of the tournament, we can beat everybody. But I was really fired up, really proud of our team and where they got to.
Talk a little bit about postseason. I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but each point, like it's like the swing of emotions. And obviously you have to be focused on the moment, but everything is like, it just multiplied.
100%. But, and again, this is where I felt comfortable in that Arizona State match. At some point we slipped into, we're just playing volleyball.
Yeah.
And this thing is the only thing that causes that moment to be different. And if we can control it, then all of a sudden we're in a better spot than our opponents. And I thought we got there in that match. And again, I give a lot of credit to Colorado State for pushing us in that match beforehand, because I think it prepped us for being there. And I'm really excited for what's going to happen next weekend as we face Wisconsin.
So Cooper had a couple stats for me that I'm just going to throw you. You just kind of help the audience understand what this means. Logan had 27 kills and a 500 hitting percentage.
That means she was good. It was funny because I got asked in the press conference about her and Emily, and Fenna was in there. I was like, Fenna played well. I literally, again, when you get into these moments, when you get into these things, I don't think I looked at stats the entire game. I was just talking about the way that our team felt and all of those things, and keeping them in that moment as much as I could. And I got done, went through the press conference. I got done, and something popped up on social media or something with 500, and I'm like, 500? In our sport, hitting efficiency is similar to a batting average, but we subtract errors. So it'd be as if in baseball you had the amount of time that somebody got hit minus the amount of time that they struck out. That would be kind of a batting efficiency if you were to make it a stat. So for us, it's how many times you got to kill, what percentage of the time that is, minus the amount of times you got an error. So that's, I don't know the exact kill percentage, but she was probably getting a kill 6 out of 10 times that you take a swing. And an elite hitter is usually around 300. Wow. And to have that type of night in that type of moment is huge. And again, it was a team effort. I will say that. There was a lot of people that were firing, but that number is pretty silly.
Talk to me a little bit about the fourth set when you're down 20-17 and you call the timeout.
Yeah. I got into the huddle, and I thought for the first 3 sets there was this joyous kind of, and I think it probably popped into our heads of like, we might go to the Sweet 16. And again, for anybody in any endeavor, like you're on this show, like if you get future or past, or you start worrying about errors, or you start worrying about where this might go, all of a sudden you're not here in this moment, and that's the place you need to be. So I thought we started to either wander one of those, and we haven't really talked about it, but talked to a couple athletes. But I got into the timeout, and I think I just said something along the lines of, if we lose track of being here in this moment, we're going to forget to enjoy it. And we had talked kind of the entire match. Like, and I was like, I think in the middle of the second set, it was probably the most fun I've had in a match, maybe my entire coaching career. And the reason for it was our team was playing free. They were playing with joy. They were doing all these things. And all of a sudden in that moment, I thought we started to get caught up with it. I just didn't want them to forget that, hey, this is a thing that we should be enjoying every minute of. And whatever we're feeling, they're feeling more probably. So we talked about looking across the net when we stepped out of that timeout and making sure that we understand they're going through the same thing. And go back to being joyful in this moment, and all of a sudden we're going to pull out on top of it because we're just doing it 3% better than them. So, and I thought our team did a great job of that. I always say this also, I'll give them credit. Like one of the press conferences, the girls were talking about just the red zone after 20. They've picked that moment as, hey, we're going to excel in this. And I looked at Ava at one point, and I said, red zone, and she just smiled and she said, we got it.
Yeah.
And they went out and got it.
So everybody wants to win. That's why you're on the court to play, obviously. But what does winning like this at this level do for later, right?
Yeah.
You know?
No, 100%. And I set the vision of bringing this thing back to where it is, and that's the thing I'm proud of right now. I'm proud of this group for putting in the work to do it this quickly. But I think Texas A&M volleyball is back where Texas A&M volleyball should be, and that's in the Sweet 16. And our next job is to keep it there. But I think this upgrades the perception of the program. Hopefully people are seeing it as a place where you can go and be developed. And this wasn't, I don't know, bringing in a bunch of random people to go do this. This was developing the talent that was here and bringing in some other pieces around it. But hopefully people are seeing this as a program where I can go, I can be developed as a human being, I can be developed as a volleyball player, and we're going to win. And I think this is just proof of that we're going to continue to push this thing further now than it has been, or where it has been in the past. So I think it's huge for the program. It also, I think for me, validates that we're doing things the right way.
Yeah.
I think as coaches, sometimes you don't have the success and there might be outside perception that, I don't know, things aren't going right, but you got to stay true to your principles and stay true to the things that you deem are important. And I think it validates that for us.
And talk to me about Wisconsin, a team that you've played already, very talented, 2 seed. They've won a lot. You lost to them early in the season, but you've grown a lot since that point.
Oh, we've grown a lot since then. And I said it right before the selection show started. I kind of turned stuff down and talked to the team, and I said, hey, whoever we get in this, I have a feeling they're going to be scared to play us because we're playing really good volleyball right now. We've talked a lot. Our girls have talked recently. We're peaking at the right time. Wisconsin's a good volleyball team. They're storied. I have a ton of respect for their head coach, for their program. They're, I don't know, large and athletic. They have a lot of size, and they play the volleyball at a really, really high level. Probably led by Sarah Franklin, their outside hitter. She's probably 6'4", 6'5", something like that, and a heavy arm. And I think the thing that sets her apart is just her ability to play the game. Right. And I remember I'd heard of her, but I hadn't really studied her from a volleyball standpoint. And when we were scouting the last time, I'm like, oh yeah, there's this person that's 6'4", heavy arm. Like, we can probably serve her, and all of a sudden, she can pass the volleyball. But again, good volleyball team. It'll be a challenge, but we're different right now. And we talked after that match when we were in Wisconsin. Just the first set, that field house that they play in is a tough place to play. I thought we were a little bit like on our heels from that. And the second set, we got in their face, and we were up and probably should have won. And I feel like that match is 1-1. It's a whole different feeling. And all of a sudden, it's a grind, and they start to feel some pressure. So we talked in the locker room about we want that second chance. And I said, I hope we get a chance to play them in the tournament. So we talked about it on the plane ride home. Like, I'm excited about that opportunity to go back in there and do what we didn't do the last time and take that second set and get in their face and make it competitive and see what happens. And again, we're playing really, really good volleyball at the right time, and I'm excited about this weekend.
So day off today, travel tomorrow.
Day off yesterday, practice today.
Practice today, leave tomorrow.
Yep.
Then practice there in Nebraska.
There. Yeah, practice there on Thursday, and then we go to battle on Friday.
All right, man. We'll be watching. Thank you very much, sir.
Always a pleasure.
Good luck to you. We'll be watching. All right, right now, your car wash tradition with the friendliest staff wants you to know all about them. They're Aggieland Express Car Wash. They're Aggieland's first green car wash. They recycle 100% of their water. They have 2 locations, the William D. Fitch location, the original there that I've gone to many, many times, and the new location, 2528 Texas Avenue South in College Station across from the Planet Fitness. The Texas Avenue location is the full-service wash. So you go there, they'll do it all for you, and we're going to give a basic car wash for free away right now. The first caller at 979-693-1150 will get that car wash from Aggieland Express Car Wash. They're on Texas Avenue, $40 of value. It is, again, Aggieland Express Car Wash, 979-693-1150. We're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Our next guest was great at A&M, has had a nice professional career, and he could also have a career as a talk show host and a Twitter troll. He's great at it. Let's go straight to the Boss Firearms Hotline. Jace Sternberger joining us here on the program. What's up, Jace?
How we doing? Good. I appreciate the intro.
Yeah, man. Hey, you have fun on Twitter, man. I like it. You and Billy have a similar game. It's fun to watch.
I think that's why me and Billy hit it off when I first got there. Game recognizes game.
Well, and you have a response for everybody. Like, is this just something I'm just noticing over the last year? Have you always been so witty and quick to respond?
Unfortunately, it's genetics. I get that from more so my parents. I've taken it to a new level, of course, but growing up with two little brothers and being a teacher's kid and always around older high school kids and everything, I always thought for some reason people needed to hear what I wanted to say for some reason.
Yeah, man, it's been great to watch. What have you been up to recently?
Full-time dad, just getting worn out. My son just turned 3, so he's never sits still, is always moving. And then now I'm just out here in Houston just working, being a normal person.
Yeah, man, that's great to hear. Fatherhood to me is where we really start to grow up as people. How was your time in the UFL? I know that there was one game in particular that you made some news with the field conditions, but overall, how was your time in the UFL?
It was 10 times better than what I thought at first, and I think everybody kind of goes through it. You kind of get over your ego, and it's like, I guess I will play in this league, because everybody I think it's human nature to kind of think you're better than something that is a little not below you, but when you've played at the NFL, to go down, it's kind of a ego check, reality check, however you want to put it. But man, once I got in there, and I was fortunate enough to be on the team, we've won it 3 years in a row now, but just how Coach Skip Holtz has ran the organization and the chemistry, and it was a blessing in disguise, and it really was. Like I said, it really made me enjoy football all over again. It was a blessing, so I really enjoyed it. It was one of those things. Moose Johnson, he was like our owner. You respected the process. You see that it's a working process. Everything wasn't going to be perfect. Sometimes there might be a field condition, or there might be something come up where, for some reason, they ran out of water bottles to give us after just little stuff that you wouldn't think, but it made you appreciate it because it's like, it's part of it, I guess. But it was a great experience. Do you want to play more, or you think your playing days are done? I always say I'm going to be done, but then when it comes around and it's like the band gets back together, and I'm kind of just waiting to see who we bring in as quarterback, because I am getting a little older, and I've been fortunate enough the past 2 years, our quarterback has won the league MVP. And so Coach Holtz and Zach Potter, they do a really good job of evaluating talent and everything. But as I'm getting older, it's kind of hard to build more, building more new relationships isn't as fun as it used to be. I get it, man. We love watching you play. We love watching you rep A&M. How do you define this A&M football season, this 24 season that had the 7 straight wins, unfortunate end to the season, but a growth of a new coach? How would you categorize it? I don't want to say better than expected, because I said it all along I even argued with my little brothers. I said we were going to have 3 losses this year. I was one off, obviously, but it was, I want to say it was better than I expected, in the sense of the win-loss column didn't show that, but I definitely didn't realize how I didn't understand how good of a recruiter he is, or I knew he was going to be a good recruiter in the high school world, because I know how high school coaches view him and respect him. But the biggest thing that the puzzle pieces put together was, I don't think we're ever going to have to worry about transfer portal kids and getting not a bad kid, but grabbing the wrong one, because Elko doesn't strike me as the type we're going to go after maybe the most attractive or the most biggest name sometimes, but he really understands the culture and what we need to bring in, and like Scooby Williams and guys like that, where, I mean, maybe it's just the blind eye to me, but like, I didn't really know about the kid prior to the season. And then we get here and I'm just like, this dude could easily be the leader of our defense, just the way how he plays effort wise. And you never hear about, I don't hear about him off the field, anything negative. And it's just like, I went to a couple games this year, and it's like, every time I went back, I just wanted to see more guys like that. And it's like, I feel like we're going to hit character guys in the portal on not necessarily guys we need to develop, but more so camaraderie, chemistry guys. Those are the type of guys who, when we're down 10 points or whatever it was to LSU, that are going to help us have that second half adjustment, and we're all going to be able to lean on those guys to help us get to where we need to be. And so I know I didn't answer your question as categorize it, but I want to say better than expected, not win and loss wise, but like I said, just the chemistry. I just felt like, okay, this is a unified football team, and it's only going to get better. I told Billy at week 1 at Notre Dame, I said, this will be our worst team that we have under Elko's era, but I also think we're going to be really good. Like, that's a really good sign to me, is like, this will be our best worst team, like, because it's only going to get better. And I know people were ripping on the offense at times this year, but it's like, man, I know no one in A&M wants to hear it takes time, but like, anytime you get thrown something new, that first year is going to be a little, it's going to be hot and cold. You're going to be balling some days, and some days it's going to be like, growing pain. So I'm excited, but I'm always excited. So,
well, I'm glad you defined it the way you did, because like I've had a hard time verbalizing it. Like sometimes it's the results of business, and I get that. And 8-4 is not what we signed up for A&M football. But you can just watch the product. You can watch the press conference. You can watch the practice. You can watch the games, and it's better. And sometimes that better doesn't necessarily mean 10-2, although that's what we aspire for. But you can't say that you watched that football team and didn't take away like, wow, because this team went to their second-string quarterback to become their starter. They lost their starting running back, and they still had a chance on the last game of the season to make the SEC championship game.
Absolutely. You can, at least me hearing them in the press conference when they're talking, it's like none of them are satisfied, and it seems they're all on the same page of what the end goal is. And it's like, yeah, we might have won today, but it definitely wasn't up to our standard or what we want to be or what our product is. Or if we lost, it's like, yeah, stuff does happen, but we're focused on the bigger goal. And I was at the coaches clinic in Houston for the, I'm probably going to butcher the name. I think it's the Houston's Touchdowns Club or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was listening to Coach Elko speak, and I was more influenced from that 25 minutes of hearing him talk than I was at all the games, because it's like, you're not just up here feeding, these boosters and whatever they want to hear. It's like your players are actually preaching the same message. Like, everybody is in sync. And like, as a player, a former player, I can, like, longevity, that's what you want, because it's like, if your head coach is preaching one message, but then your players are kind of giving you a different vibe and everything, it's like, not necessarily, it's not even like media trained. It's like when Marcel talks, I'm like, okay, this is a young man who's going to be a really good leader. He reminds me of Kellen. Kellen's very well spoken and has a very good head on his shoulder as well. But it's like I'm ready. No shade to Connor or anything, because Connor's a good kid too. But there was just something when Marcel was talking. It's like you saw guys rallying around him, and I don't know. I was just, from behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff that, like, it might not look like it, but in 2 years or 3, whatever it may be, it's like, it's not going to be a surprise, because we've seen their deposits they've been putting in. And that's, to me, as a former player, is really encouraging.
Jace, what do you think about this matchup with USC in the Las Vegas Bowl? Are you intrigued by it?
I kind of am. I'm intrigued by, I think, every matchup, just because I want us to do well, obviously. And I'm excited that we have, if Marcel can top his last bowl performance, then that would be incredible, because he went ballistic last year in the bowl game. I'm excited to see who's out there, because I'm sure the guys who have declared for the draft, or if we have some portals, they won't be here. So I think this will be a good time for young kids to get out there and really build some momentum going into the spring. And that's huge for me, because there's nothing better as a player is, you didn't have the results win-loss wise that you wanted, but you balled out in your final game. Now you're about to go home for 2 weeks for Christmas, whatever it is. You're gonna go home. Everybody's gonna tell you how good you've been doing, and like, you start to build that little arrogance, the little momentum of, now it's like, all right, we didn't do our standard, and we still finished 8-4. We were 1 game away from the SEC championship. It's like, now I feel like almost and granted, everybody can say this, but we have the answers to the test. We know what we have to do. It's like, now it's like, let's go back to College Station, which is the best place you can be, I feel like, in the off season to just grow, because whether everybody's going to go to basketball games, and it's just the place to be, in my opinion. So I think this is a great time to build momentum and just really attack next year. And so I'm intrigued. Being a former Oklahoma kid, I would love to see us send Lincoln on his way, because I don't know how much longer that's going to go. And whatever. But I'm excited. I think the kids will enjoy Vegas as well. I know that's a good time.
Hey, let's close out with this. What do you think they're lacking? What are they missing? What do you want to see more offensive line? Do you think skill position? What do you think that they need in this portal run here?
I'm gonna say the basic answer, and I loved all of our guys this year, but I just think you need a reliable third down target. Not to pat myself on the back, but whenever you have that, it makes it hard on defenses. And so I would love to see us get some undeniable receivers and who you just can't tell no, regardless what they're doing. It's like 50-50, like George Pickens. If I throw the ball, there's a 50% chance that he's going to catch it. And then as I've gotten older, I would just love, like, our D-line was amazing this year, but I would love to see where we're getting held more than we were this year. I'd love to see our D-line just keep getting ferocious, because if you get a front seven in college, you can't win again. You can't lose with that.
Jace, man, great conversation. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I hope to do it again soon, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
See you, man. Jace Sternberger here on TexAgs Live. Great conversation with him. We'll put that up on TexAgs.com here in a moment. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with some text messages there from the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Right now, if your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then you need to check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during marquee events held throughout the year. We're talking about Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, and The Gathering. They welcome tens of thousands of guests, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of those attendees. All events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. These options include title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition, social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with other Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. It is the Association of Former Students. And we're back. TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2 of the program coming to a close. We're about to hit a break. I do want to read this and then go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Frutella Italian Cafe. They are serious about serving you delicious Italian homemade dishes made with love, fresh pasta, golden fried breadsticks. I love breadsticks. I'm just a breadstick kind of guy. Irresistible lasagna and famous cheesecake. They're also proud partners with Texas A&M Athletics, sharing a passion for food and Aggie fans all over the place. If you can't come to them, no problem. They'll ship their products nationwide so you can enjoy Frutella from the comfort of your home. Plus, you can find them every Saturday at the Memorial Villages Farmers Market in Houston. They are owned by the same family that opened Pino's in Houston, and they are proud to carry on the tradition of serving up the best Italian food in town. Come hungry and leave happy. It is Frutella, all about good food and great company. All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Cooper Patterson, what do you have for us, buddy?
So, David, I'm actually going to call an audible about what I just told you I was going to ask you.
Okay.
So we got an 817 number. I think that's Fort Worth from the beginning of the show. He doesn't ask a question, but this is when we were talking about players that have embraced being an Aggie, like Ja'Day Walker. Dexter Nissy says, heck yeah, Nuño, stick to your guns. Loyalty is a rare commodity. And this kind of reminded me of a question. Who are more players, current players, I want to ask, or future players, like some of our recruits that are coming in, that have embraced being an Aggie that you're just like, I love this guy because of his attitude about being an Aggie?
Henry Coleman. How can you not think about Henry Coleman when talking about that from a basketball perspective? Look, I'm going to forget names, but they all, like other names to think about, like on the football side, Torian York. Like he is, when you think about A&M and what it means to be an Aggie, I think of Torian York. I do. But Henry's one that really comes to mind. Torian, there's plenty. I mean, like the guy we just interviewed a few minutes ago, Jace Sternberger, wasn't even here that long, and he is an Aggie through and through, right? Like, I think there's just certain guys that they get the culture, it fits them, and there's a unique relationship between the two. Those are some. Nick, am I forgetting anybody? Who's somebody that when you think of, like, because to me, Dexter Dennis became an Aggie like that.
Logan Lednicki.
There you go.
Volleyball.
Great.
Hunter. Hayden Schott.
Another one, yeah, who just got here a year ago. It's been a little bit more than a year now, and he fits in perfectly. Jason Lavalette, like, hello, he could have gone pros. He decided to come to A&M, and he's lived up to it every second of it. I got one for you. This is going to be the best one. Michael Early. I mean, come on, like he's the one. I mean, there's a lot of ones, but Michael Early fits that as well. Coach Elko fits that. We got some incredible ambassadors to this program. We got time for one more text.
And so Rudy from Dallas, he asks, he sent a tweet from SEC Mike, our good friend SEC Mike, and it's got a lot of teams in the transfer portal and how many guys they have. Mississippi State has 21, Arkansas has 20, Kentucky has 19, A&M has 13, Oklahoma has 12. And so he's a little scared about the number of team, or the quality of team that has guys up in similar numbers as us in the transfer portal. And he says, one, is this going to look the same as playoffs? And two, like, is this a concern?
Look, they dealt with it last year with a changing coach, and they have less, obviously, right now. We'll see how the rest of the offseason plays out. Is it a concern? Sure. I think they got the right guy to find people to fill in those spots. We'll try to go down that track a little bit later. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. And we are back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 3 of the program. Should have Dennis Dodd on the program here momentarily from CBS Sports. We'll talk about all the big topics happening in the world of college football with the playoffs and the A&M versus USC and just transfer portal, you name it. We'll try to get to Dennis with that. But I think what they're trying to get him on the phone. So let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I think Malik had a question for us. So we'll try Dennis Dodd again. Apparently we're getting voicemail, so we'll try him here in a moment. Let's go to the question from Malik.
Yeah, Malik in the YouTube chat, he says, I have a question for David. What are the cons of giving an 18-year-old college player $1 to $2 million, and what might be the pros?
Well, let's talk about the pros. I think they're kind of obvious, right? Generational wealth. Not that that would actually, let me rephrase that. $1 million today isn't generational wealth. But that kind of money for a family that hasn't had money, it could change the course of your family's, direction, right? It can help out your mom, your dad, your little brother, your sister, you, right? Like it's something that is can just change the trajectory of what you're hoping to get. And for those who don't make it to the NFL level, right? There's a lot of great high school 5-star guys that don't make it to the next level. To me, it's like an opportunity to cash in on your athletic talents, right? So there's that. There's also other things that you can go with it, but to me, that is one of the big things. The negatives to it, and Nick, if you can text Dennis Dodd for me here when you get a moment, but the negatives to it is that if you're not taught financial literacy, I think it can set you up for some failure, right? First off, you don't know, like that money is not there forever, right? So it feels good in the moment, but can $1 million last you the rest of your life? Absolutely not, right? Like I was just, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'll never be able to pay for my kids' college tuition with 4 kids going to college. That's going to be $1 million. I'll never be able to pay for that, right? So like $1 million, while is amazing money, and we would all love to be able to sniff that, most of us, right? When you're that age, I think it gives you a different level of expectations in your own life to where you think you can have the Mercedes-Benz. You think you can live this certain way, this flashy lifestyle. And when that money stops, it is hard to adjust back. You start spending this, that's why, is it Elon Musk who drives a car from 1996 or something like that? I believe he does.
I think you're thinking Mark Zuckerberg. He's definitely driving a Tesla, which is his own company.
Well, yeah, that's his company. I would get it. So yeah, Zuckerberg. There you go. So there is that. Look, I think it all comes down to a unique situation. There are certain people that can handle that kind of money, and there's certain people that can't. And you see it in pro sports. We saw it here at A&M. There's certain people that with that kind of fame and that kind of money, it can set you up for a dangerous path unless you have the right people in your corners. And those people are your head coach, your position coach, your parents, right? Your mentors, maybe even your high school coach, people that you have entrusted throughout your life, your close friends. To me, that is part of the give and take with it. When you are given that kind of money, it to me, if you can make, if my sons could go make $1 million to go play college football somewhere or college soccer for them, how do you not look at that? How do you not consider that as a moment? But one of the pieces of advice I've given my kids, and my kids are not on that trajectory at all, but one of the advices I've given, one of the pieces of advice that I've given them is when thinking about what school you're going to go to, it can't just be about the coach. It can't just be about how quickly you're going to play. What is the path to play? What is the culture? What are the kids that are on campus right now think about it? What is the education going to look like for you? What is life going to look like for you when you graduate and you aren't playing at the next level? Those are all things that, are you okay with the climate? Are you okay with, do you know people that are already there? Do you get a bad vibe from anybody? It shouldn't just be about NIL. It shouldn't just be about your path to play, although we do pick for opportunities to play, right? That's like if somebody leaves a job for a different job, they're leaving for financial success or maybe a different title, a raise in platform and elevation, right? So there are so many different reasons to pick. But I think if all things are equal, then the money obviously becomes part of it. So Malik, I'm giving you a very long answer to say, I think it's on a case-by-case basis. How can you, there are certain kids that I think get $1 million and it changes who they are. And there's others that, and by the way, there's no like right path, right? I'm just saying destructive behavior when you have resources and you can allocate funds to that is a lot more apparent. If you can just fly across the country whenever you want because you made $1 million this year, I'm going to take my teammates, we're going to go to, not Vegas, because A&M's going to Vegas, but somewhere like that. It can set you up down a dark path unless you have the right guardrails. I think it's all about guardrails, parental guardrails, coaching guardrails, teammate guardrails. And that, by the way, is why when these kids are picking places as a parent, you got to make sure that that head coach they have to be an extension of your parenting for that player. You cannot just be a 5-star to them. You've got to be a person with real emotions and real feelings. What else do we have, Cooper?
Well, can I actually weigh in on that as a 20-year-old college kid? I know getting a couple $100s a month my first year as a college student with a dining hall thing, I was spending all that money at Raising Cane's. Right? I was not at all responsible with my money. Imagine with $1 million, how many times I'd be at Raising Cane's. But yeah, I think you're exactly right on the financial literacy part. I know I didn't understand the value of $1, especially other kids aren't, and when you get that much money, it's not going to help you understand the value of $1.
Think about it. So I don't think they call it this anymore. Is there a thing called Aggie Bucks still?
I think they just call them like dining dollars.
Okay. When I was in college, we had Aggie Bucks, right? And I remember it was, I think in 95 or 96, they had expanded from like doing it just on campus to a couple places off campus. You mean to tell me I can go to Freebirds and get a double monster twice? And like, it's just to me, it was like a plethora of money, right? Like, I just looked at it, I was like, all right. And then at certain places you could buy like goods. Like, I'm gonna buy a CD with this. I remember buying a CD with Aggie Bucks at some place on Northgate. I didn't think about like, my parents are putting this in here for a particular reason. And I took advantage of that. So look, there's a lot, and by the way, there's a lot of kids that I think have learned the value of $1. So again, I don't think one size fits all in all of this. It just, to me, Nick, like for you, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, well, I don't think I know we're not I don't think every player's getting, that much money. That's the thing. Like, I think that might be a little overblown, just across college football, not specifically to A&M. I feel like that is kind of overblown. Obviously, probably the top talent is for sure. But, I don't know. I kind of agree with what you were saying. I mean, just like, and kind of what Cooper was saying. I'm 25 and I'm still trying to figure out this whole financial literacy bit of it. But yeah, it's a weird deal.
No, to me, it's like, again, there isn't one answer that'll fit for all. Certain people can handle it. Certain people can't. Right? I wouldn't have been able to handle $1 million. I wouldn't have. Like at 18 to 22, I know there are certain athletes that can handle it. Like that, there's people who go pro. There's soccer players that are 16 years old making millions, right? Before they even make it to the big stage, but because a club has expected them to be that great. Kobe Bryant, wasn't he 17 when he came into the league?
He drafted at 18.
Drafted at 18. Was it Kevin Garnett that was 17? Somebody was 17.
Somebody was, yeah. I think it was Kevin Garnett.
But regardless, 17, 18. And Kobe was one of the most disciplined dudes in the world. And I know he made a lot of mistakes, don't get me wrong, but like when it came to being disciplined, so it all depends. There are number one picks in the NFL draft that never pan out, and they have all these issues. And some of it is the financial aspect of it. Some of it is the situation they went to. Some of it is they didn't have the right people around them. So again, to me, it is all about your surroundings and the people that you have around you helping you. Cooper, what else?
So Randy, I believe he's a Texas fan in our chat, regular in the YouTube chat. He's asking about what is Elko's strategy. So he says, so Zeno coming to be a starter won't Reed just leave if so? And can you clear up the confusion there about what the purpose of going after a quarterback in the transfer portal would be?
Yeah, so I think Mike Elko, Marcel Reed is your starter next year, even if Zeno is in the mix. But there will be a competition because no spot, an 8-4 team, no spot is guaranteed, right? Look at Quinn Ewers. They are 11-2, and for parts of this season, people are wanting for Arch to be the starting quarterback, right? So, there is no spot that is guaranteed. I think Zeno would be coming in as a veteran presence in a locker room, in a quarterback room that is very young. Marcel Reed will have a year basically a year of starting.
He'll be a redshirt sophomore. O'Neal will be a redshirt freshman, and then 2 incoming freshmen.
Right? But how many starts? Right? Again, we're talking about 6-7 starts for Marcel Reed.
I think 8 at that point.
8. So, again, very similar to Connor Wegman coming into this year. There's still no spot is guaranteed. I think Zeno brings you a veteran influence who can compete and push Marcel. That's kind of how I look at it. And maybe even a higher level than Jalen Henderson came in here. So I think there's that. But I don't think he's coming here. I don't think they brought him in to send a signal to Marcel Reed. They brought him in because they needed a veteran presence in the locker room, a guy who can certainly get it done. That's my read on it.
Yeah. And then Michael Mills, he asked, what would Manziel's NIL deal if he would have been here?
I mean, millions, right? And some of these NIL deals are just the perks that you get for being an NIL, a star athlete. Never waiting in line, being flown around the country to cool events. There's a lot of that which weren't allowed back in the day. There's some of those aspects. I think Manziel would have, he would have. There isn't anybody in today's college football that I think would have made more than Manziel. I don't believe so.
Wouldn't have been close either.
No, I don't think so.
He was already making money like that before NIL was even a thing. And you talk about the perks. I know. Unnamed football player, I won't say his name, at Chipotle. I have a friend of a friend who works at Chipotle. He told me that he gives he gives him half off every time he goes to Chipotle just because he's a football player. He didn't even know what the guy's name was. He just knew he was on the football team and he saw him playing. I thought that was really funny. And then Katie says, didn't he say he could have made $5 million if he had access to NIL? I think the ballpark would have been even more than $5 million.
I don't know how you can figure out that number, but by the way, I keep seeing things on Bill Belichick in North Carolina. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I feel I need to come up with a new term, losing your fastball, because I use that so much with Jimbo. But Bill Belichick, probably the greatest NFL coach we've ever seen, right? I say probably because I think his legacy is, I don't want to say been tarnished, but has taken a little bit of a hit with Tom winning without him. When he went to the Tampa Bay Bucks. But I still think 6 Super Bowls, right? He won 6 Super Bowls. 6 Super Bowls, and the architect, and at one place, what he was able to do. If he were to move to the college ranks, I don't know how his style would work with kids that can transfer at any point. There's a lot of tough love with Bill Belichick that I don't know if it translates to college. One guy that I've given a hard time to is Deion Sanders, but his style, I think, does work with today's athlete. And although I have my issues with him making himself the story half the time, I think he has got a unique voice in the way he communicates with his athletes. And the fact that he said, we're not going to have any opt-outs, our guys are playing. I think that says that, think about that. Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter, if they're
top 10 picks, probably.
I don't know if both are. Are they both expected to be? I know Travis Hunter's mentioned.
I saw a mock draft with Shador at 1. I don't know how real that will be. We'll see how the NFL shakes up for that. But
to me, that is such a cool thing to see. And again, I'm not a Deion fan. I was rooting for them to lose. They lost 2 games this year, right?
I believe.
I think they went, or maybe they went 9-3.
I think they went
9-3.
Yeah, 3 games.
So, for them to be the program that they were 2 years ago, to be the program that they were last year, to start this season off with a humiliating loss, I think they lost 2 of their first 3 games, if I remember correctly.
Lost to Nebraska. I can look up their schedule.
And that was a bad one. To be where they are now, I think that is just, and to get apparently, allegedly, as Dion says, nobody's going to opt out, and you got 2 potential top 10 picks on your roster. I think that says a lot. He's got a unique voice. I think Bill Belichick commands respect and the ability to get men to listen and play for him at a certain way. But in a world where, like, how much do kids that are right now 18 years old look at Bill Belichick and look at him the way maybe you would, who watched him your whole career? How old are you, 20?
I'm 20.
20 years old. I mean, you remember him at his peak.
He's like the GOAT coaching in everybody my age's eyes. Like, I think you're right about Tom winning somewhere else, how that has kind of changed his legacy. But if you go back and, like, remember, those defenses were incredible. And that was Bill Belichick. Like, they won a Super Bowl, I think, scoring 13 points. That's like, Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback ever, but that's not Tom Brady's doing. Winning a game, a Super Bowl, mind you, with 13 points. That's Bill Belichick's coaching. That's his defense.
He won some Super Bowls too, though, himself.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to take away from Tom, but Bill has a huge part in those Super Bowl wins. You have Aaron Rodgers, who for a lot of his career, it can be argued that he was playing better than Tom Brady was, who only has 1 Super Bowl, because that guy had 1 good defense ever, and that's the one time he ever won a Super Bowl. But I think recruiting is something that would be really interesting with that story of him being. The recruiting and the drafting process, the free agency in the NFL, it's so different.
I can't see him going to
college.
kids' houses and like kissing their butts. I just can't see that. And I'm not saying all coaches have that formula, but I know that B Glow just mentioned on the YouTube chat that there's a video of Gronk and Tom kind of making fun of him if he had to recruit. It'd be funny to see. I just don't know how that translates. I'd be intrigued by it. I'd want to watch it. Like, I think there's something interesting there, no doubt. And I think I'd like to see it. I think I'd like to see him try to go at another NFL franchise. But, Tom Brady put himself on the on the ledge there, but he did it. He got it done. If Belichick doesn't go somewhere and make the playoffs immediately, because where are you going to go? You're going to go places that need a change, right? And the Dallas Cowboys probably aren't going to be the right fit for him. I think that all would be very interesting to see how that were to play out. I don't know. I don't know what he should do. But again, his voice compared to Dion's voice, while I personally would rather be coached by a guy like Bill Belichick, there's no denying the way Dion goes about his business. 18 to 22-year-old men will listen. Now, he'll cut you if you don't fit the brand, and I'll be interested to see what he looks like without those 2 on his roster next year at Colorado. But I think that is all part of the conversation. And no, I don't see Sark going to Dallas. I don't see that happening at all. I think he's making quite enough money there with the Longhorns, and I think he's got something, unfortunately, that he's building there. You can say what you want about the offense this year, but they are obviously on the right track. We'll hit a break here. Probably have another open segment because I don't know what happened to Dennis Dodd, but we'll find out. Bird Dog, Aggie-owned and operated company creating access to hunting opportunities. I want you to think about a Airbnb for hunters. I took advantage of it thanks to my friend Jonathan Lusk. He started this company. He's the founder. And the idea is so awesome. Like, a lot of times you got to know rich friends to go hunting, or you just got to have the right connections to go hunting. I mean, they'll do it for you. They'll find you the 5-star ranch. They'll find you all the amenities and all the great stuff that you can have on top of your hunt. Like for us, we had a concert, we had a private chef. It was awesome, right? Like he and the crew there at Bird Dog will all set it up for you. They make it easy for the landowners to get hunters on their land. They make it easy for the hunters to find the hunts. And also, if you're a new hunter, they'll teach you all the things you need to know and just set you on your way. It's a great way to go about it. BirdDogIt.com. That is BirdDogIt.com. We're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. When floundering happens, we go to the Boss Firearms Hotline and talk to the executive editor and co-owner of TexAgs, Billy Liucci. Billy, good morning, sir.
What's up, Dave?
How are you, buddy?
Good. What happened? I was listening, and it sounded like you were having a bit of an incident. So I said, text you, see if you wanted me to come on.
Oh, so you thought I was having an incident. You didn't like the Deion Sanders, Bill Belichick topic that organically came up.
No, I don't. I'm not worried about that. I just didn't want you to have to battle with the second open segment.
I know. I'm just kidding. Billy, let's focus on the portal for a second, if you can, and just we already talked about the initial list that went in, but over the last 24, 36 hours, some more new names have popped up on that list. TJ Shanahan is one that caught my eye yesterday, and Cam Dewberry.
Yeah, you're playing 2024 college football is what we're talking about. That's what's happening. I mean, those guys are backup O-linemen that don't see a clear path to start next year, and they want to play football. And they would love to keep an experienced guy like Cam and have a backup in Shanahan that has a chance to get better. I mean, he had a rough go of it this year, early in that LSU game, and then it got tougher for him at South Carolina and Auburn. When he's in, it was tough, but he's a young offensive lineman. I think he's got a lot of promise. But there's a couple of things you're dealing with. It's players that are not starting want to play, and now more than ever, they can go pick somewhere where they can play, but they can also still be marketable on the NIL market. And, particularly a younger guy like Shanahan or somebody needs an interior lineman that's played and got a lot of SEC reps and SEC starts and Cam Dewberry. They can also go get paid, and they can get paid more than what A&M would pay, because A&M knows. They know exactly what kind of player a guy is, for better or worse, and they also know where they fit in their system. So let's say a guy like Dewberry or Shanahan, they'll get paid as backups at A&M on the NIL front, most likely, and can hit reset and go find a better opportunity to start, and B, they can get paid more because they're going to get paid as a starter by said school. And you've got one school that you're negotiating with in Texas A&M, and then you go in the portal and you've got many. So it's what happens, man. It's hard. You got to make decisions on where you're going to spend your money, where you're going to distribute for your salary cap, and you're going to lose some guys that are, I think, are good players in Shanahan and Dewberry, but they're depth. That's the reality when you look at Lasantis and they're working hard to get Ramaje Reed-Adams back versus going to the pros. So if those two were to come back, Naboo as an interior guy, and then you've got some young interiors that they're really excited about, guys like Afua, Blake Ivy. So there's depth there. There's not a lot of opportunity, so can't say you blame them. But the reality, David, when you look at the list, and by the way, my number one pet peeve in the world, and I wish people that cover A&M would just stop contributing to the crap. Like, when these guys go in that people that cover the team haven't even heard of, we don't have to make a production out of it. But I'm looking at the list right now. I don't see a single name, not one, of anyone that would have started next year. Now, they could have, Malik Stiller could have hit, had a great offseason turn. I don't think Jaden Platt could have been there. Cyrus Allen could have, but you're probably going to you better out recruit him in the portal. I don't see one name on there that's starting at Texas A&M next year with healthy people. I'm not saying, like, look, if Connor Wigman would have, but you couldn't keep Connor because Connor has to play, and you can't pay both him and Marcel to play that quarterback position. Not with what Connor will go get on the open market, not with what Marcel's going to get to stay. So there's not a single name on there, not one, that starts at A&M next year. So that's the key. Now, unfortunately, you're going to see some of those names going on to the NFL like you did yesterday with Shamar and with Nick Scorton, which I kind of had a little slight glimmer of hope, David, like pipe dream that one of those two could stay, because you could make a case that either of them should have for in the world of NIL, how much they could command versus the ability to move themselves up in the draft. Because I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on Nick in terms of just not ideal measurables and just how does his pass rush translate into the NFL. And I think that might hurt him on draft day. I still think he can go first round, but this stuff where they've got him at like 10, 11, top 12 or so, I think that'll be a battle he'll have to fight, where Shamar should go up from the measurable side of things, but the production just wasn't there like it's been for Nick for 3 years. So in terms of just getting to the quarterback. So I think they're both fighting different battles as they enter the draft, but I also don't think either one of them made a bad decision. I think you could see them both going in that late first to mid-second range, depending on how things shake out.
Billy, before we let you go, do you see A&M adding as many as they lose? I guess is that even a fair way of presenting it? Because with the guys coming in from the recruiting class, like, do you see if they lose 20 guys in the portal, are they going to try to replace 20 guys in the portal?
No, and they'll probably lose. Look, they're going to lose a couple more. Now, I'm hearing good things on some of the starters, and I'm not going to sit here and alarm everyone. So some of the guys you want back, we're considering it, and maybe even still are, but I think it's great progress on the front of the guys that the listener and the fans would look at and go, ooh, that's a big loss. I think they're doing a great job, and probably will keep pretty much all those guys, actually. So that side of it's going really well. I don't think when you combine that with the recruiting class, I don't think you're going to see them go off and get 21. They got 21, I think, last year, roughly. Maybe it was 21, 22, and that's kind of the number you're at here. And I think you'll see that number of portal for A&M grow in terms of outgoing, just by a couple. And again, similar to the names you've seen on the list, like you guys listening can go down the roster and kind of go, oh, I could see that one or that one or that one. And those are probably the guys that I'm talking about. Same thing as like Shanahan, Dewberry, the guys, Platt, the guys that just didn't see a path to play, and or the guys that are getting older and can go get paid somewhere. No, David, I don't think they'll take nearly as many as last year. I don't think that number will be close to 20. I think there's not that big a need for it. I think very clearly there's a need at receiver. I think there's a need for O-linemen in depth, and depending on what guys like Zune and Armage do in terms of the NFL, then there could be a big need to go out and get starters on the O-line. And so I think receiver, O-line, either depth or even then some, and defensive line. I mean, that's where you're losing. That's where you're losing so much in Shamar and Nick. And then you lost some depth in Silla and I guess Samu, although he hadn't hardly played. But D-line, O-line, receiver, and then I think there's a very clear need to go out and try to get some impact at the tight end position as well.
Billy, thanks for calling in, man. I think we're going to get you on the show Thursday, right?
Yeah, we've talked about quarterback, Nuño, that too. Obviously, a veteran backup quarterback, and hopefully that one happens pretty soon. He's on campus, the last couple of days.
Yeah, well, once it happens, we'll get you on the show, man. Thank you very much.
All right, Dave.
See you, buddy. Billy Liucci, co-owner and executive editor of TexAgs. We'll hit a break. We'll come back, talk a little USC football, get to your text messages, and more. It's TexAgs Live.
You're listening to The Zone.
All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studios. Time to go to the Boss Firearms hotline. Boss Firearms, your local experts. They buy used guns, ammo, and accessories. Go to bossfirearms.com to start earning money like a boss today. And we go to it. We talked to Connor Morrissette, USC insider for USCfootball.com. Connor, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
My pleasure. Doing well. Very excited for the Las Vegas Bowl.
Yeah, so I feel like everybody knew this bowl was going to happen. Those who cared about USC, those who cared about A&M, it was rumored for a while. There was a couple places A&M could go to, but I felt like most of the predictions were the Las Vegas Bowl. Did it feel that way for you all?
Yeah, the latest that we heard was that if Arizona State beat Iowa State, that was going to lock USC into the Las Vegas Bowl. And I was kind of a little skeptical because last season when Florida State doesn't get into the playoff, that had a trickle-down effect, and USC didn't find out its bowl opponent and its bowl game until way late in the process. So we ended up getting the right information this year, but I feel like you can always, you never really know what's going to happen with that playoff, and if something weird happens, then that can affect some of the smaller bowls. So luckily that didn't happen this year, and yeah, A&M, USC should be a great game.
Look, I got to ask you about Lincoln Riley, because I read things, I see things. I hear that he could be on the hot seat, but that can't be for this year, right? They wouldn't let him be coaching now if they were thinking about moving on from him, right? That's more of about next year, or is it even potentially this year?
The problem is the previous athletic staff at USC signed Lincoln Riley to a massive contract, 10 years, over $10 million annually. If he was to be fired right now, he'd be owed $90 million. That's according to multiple sources. So the situation isn't great, where 7-5 last year in the regular season, 6-6 this year, a new AD who didn't hire him. If the contract was different, he'd absolutely be on the hot seat. But because he'd be owed so much money, there's nothing that USC can do right now to get rid of him unless he wanted to take another job. And I don't think that is a possibility. He said all along he's in it for the long haul. He wants to be at USC. He's going to rebuild USC. But I do think if the contract situation was different, he'd certainly have his feet to the fire right now.
Is he a good fit for USC? Obviously, the wins and losses is what matters. But does he fit culturally? Does his personality vibe with it? Is it a good fit if he can figure out some of the issues that he's had that we didn't see at Oklahoma, but that was already he had an existing program that was already winning?
It's an interesting question. I mean, right now he doesn't look like a perfect fit, but I think in 16 of the last 17 years, USC's been out of the college football playoff discussion in the middle of October. So is it a Lincoln Riley problem or is it a USC problem? A little bit of both, I'd say. So with him, it's just about winning games. And they had the great first season, and then they flamed out in the postseason. But going 11-1, even though it was an easier schedule in the Pac-12, that is impressive. So there is the proof of concept there. His big problem is that he just has not navigated this pay-for-play, NIL, transfer portal era very well so far. And then he goes on his radio show last night after a big impact player, their featured running back for next season, Quentin Joyner, enters the portal, and he's asked about guys entering the portal, and he says straight up, hey, there are some guys we're just not going to be able to pay. Their production does not match what they've done on the field. And this was a guy who was the backup running back this year, but he was in line to have a really big role next year, a guy they recruited, a highly rated guy out of Texas, Quentin Joyner. So Riley didn't directly say those comments were about the running back, but it was hard not to read into that. So I think the biggest problem he's having is that he was so good at recruiting off of his reputation and off of what he's done with offense. And now it's more show me the money and I need to play right away. And I just don't think that staff has done as good of a job as other staffs across the country. It's a challenge, but I don't think they've done as good of a job with this new era and navigating all these new things that are there with college football.
Why did it not work out with Miller Moss, especially after having some early success?
So if you listen to our USC shows, the USC fans think I'm this big Miller Moss fanboy, and I think that he's so great. And this year, I really think that Lincoln Riley failed him as a play caller when this team's strength became very clear midway through the season was the running game. And we know Lincoln Riley's an air raid coach, and he's never going to completely go away from the pass. He's not going to turn into an Iowa. But what they needed to do to win games, was to run the ball more. And then they throw it 50 times in a loss to Maryland, 50 times in a loss to Washington. They threw it 50 times in another defeat. Like, the run-to-pass ratio just wasn't really what it should have been, and that was a killer when they have Woody Marks, who's a second-team All-Big Ten running back, and then Quentin Joyner, a guy who didn't really get used at all. He leads the Big Ten in yards per carry. If Riley had set up his offense a little bit differently and they were a run-first team, I think they could have had not way more, but more wins this year. And Miller Moss made some mistakes. He wasn't perfect in all of this, so I think he deserves some blame for sure. But if you go back and you watch the film of that USC-Michigan game, Moss did throw a pick six, but he was excellent for the most part in that game, brought his team back when they couldn't run the ball early in the year. And then he sort of lost his confidence after that because he was just taking shot after shot. So the offensive line wasn't as good as it should have been early in the year. They didn't run the ball as much. And Moss isn't Caleb Williams, so it's hard to, cover up a lot of your faults when you're not the number one overall pick. But I think he was kind of he hung out to dry a little bit by Riley this year. They should have had a better year. They had better players than their record indicated. If they had a different strategy, I think this year could have gone a lot better.
So I was looking at the schedule that Nick put up a moment ago, if he can put it back up, and I'm looking at all these games against some teams that are good teams. And these losses are so close. The Michigan loss, which I don't think Michigan was all that good this year, but 27-24. The Penn State loss only by 3 points. The Notre Dame loss, which was 14, but it seemed like a much closer game until the end. The Washington loss. So why did they lose these games? Was it really the offensive philosophy? How close are they to being a team that maybe could have gone 9-3?
Leading into Notre Dame, they had a fourth quarter lead in every game. So they were close to being better. But I just think when that pattern repeats itself, how close are you? And eventually you sort of are what your record says you are. They just didn't have enough talent this season, and then they regressed on offense. So those are the two big issues that I see. They were close, but it's hard for me to say, that they were really close when in every single game, pretty much every game that they lost, they went on to lose. You got to win some of those games to be close. 6-6, you're probably close to 8-4. So I'll say they're close to 8-4, but close to 10-2, close to the college football playoff. Not this season, and it was a whole host of issues. They didn't get as good a quarterback play as they should have. Like I've said, I didn't like what Lincoln Riley did philosophically from an offensive perspective. Their receivers underachieved. Defensively, the new staff did a nice job, but they didn't have any home wreckers on that defense, any day one NFL guys who teams really needed a game plan for. So a lot of issues that we saw heading into the season sort of came to fruition. I had them at 7-5, and that's sort of how it all played out. They didn't do enough in the offseason.
So how much of a team will they have in this bowl game? Because as you know, if you're not in the playoffs, these teams are getting rated by the portal, the NFL draft. How many guys are maybe going to the draft? How many guys you think will end up in the portal? I think I saw, was it 10 or 11 already in the portal for USC? So how does that kind of play out?
It's a great question. Right now, the biggest question mark is on the offensive line. They have two NFL draft prospects. Their center, Jonah Monheim, their left guard, Emmanuel Pregnon. Monheim is out of eligibility, but he's going to be an NFL draft pick. So it's tough to say if he's going to play. Pregnon has a year left, but he accepted an invitation to the Senior Bowl, so he's gone. They want him to play because they don't really have a lot of depth, but we don't know if he's going to play. Their starting right tackle entered the transfer portal, Mason Murphy, so that's now 3 starters who could potentially be out. And it's messy because behind them, USC really doesn't have that much depth. The guy who has the most amount of snaps after those players had 84 on the year, all in mop-up duty. So it could be an ugly situation if USC loses their NFL draft guys. And then Murphy's definitely gone, so they're going to need to replace their right tackle. They have a starting receiver in the portal who's not going to play. Right now, they only have 1 scholarship quarterback for the game. So if Jaden Mayava, were to get hurt and USC needed to go to someone who's not in the portal, it would be a walk-on, so that isn't good. They have a lot of problems on offense. Defensively, they should be okay with some guys who could go to the league but will probably end up playing in the game, and they just have, even though it isn't great depth, they have better depth than they do on the offense in terms of experience. So defense, they should be able to field a decent team, but on offense, there are some real question marks right now about what it's all going to look like.
And what's the future for Woody Marks?
NFL. He is going to be an NFL draft pick for sure. I'm skeptical if he's going to play in this bowl game. He got a concussion in the Notre Dame game, so I don't envision him playing. And running back's a position I left out, talking all about the offense. So if he's out, then the backup running back who I talked about earlier, Quentin Joyner, he's in the portal. He's out. USC only has 2 other scholarship running backs. One is a redshirt freshman, one's a true freshman. So the running game could be ugly too. But yeah, Marks, I don't think he's going to play.
And then last thing for you, what do the LA fans and USC fans think about playing A&M here?
I think they're excited. I know I'm excited for the matchup. Deep down, I was hoping that it would be Oklahoma for all the Lincoln Riley, the him having that experience at Oklahoma and USC, 2 fan bases that would really go at each other. But it's going to be a fun game with Texas A&M. I'm glad USC is playing an SEC team. Last year they had Louisville in the Holiday Bowl, an ACC team, and they beat them comfortably. So this will be a real test. I don't know exactly who's going to play for A&M. I'm sure your audience knows a lot more, so I'll be reading all your site looking ahead. But I think it should be a great game. We all saw what Mike Elko did this year. People are excited.
Connor, I appreciate your time, man. Maybe we'll do it again closer to the game.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Connor there, Morrissette, does really nice work. We appreciate his time here on TexAgs Live. Ryan Abraham, a guy that he works with, I think Ryan's the founder. I worked with him back in the day in the old Yahoo Sports Radio days. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back with a short segment. If you're looking for the perfect spot to satisfy your food cravings and hang out with friends, you need to go to the Varsity Grill House. They are Aggie-owned and conveniently located in front of the Academy on Highway 6 in College Station. Vibrant atmosphere, indulge in mouth-watering dishes crafted with care, with sizzling burgers to savory 4-farm steaks. They have a dozen signature cocktails at the bar. They got something for everyone. They got great desserts, and it's a place that you can take your wife to and just have a nice dinner, or you can take your buddies there, watch the games, and just hang out. It's got that little mixing vibe there. It's the Varsity Grill House, your home for good times and great food. We hope to see you there. All right, closing it out here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Nick, nice job with the Las Vegas Bowl behind me. I like when a little production value. I appreciate that. We go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Cooper Patterson. This guy's missed Johnny Topics. This guy's always at the break. Here's a topic. Here's a topic. Here's a topic. What's the topic you got?
So Jamie Morrison was talking about it earlier when talking about volleyball. Also mentioned it with football. When the conferences, there's two or three conferences that are just way better than everybody else, that have way more talent, way better competition, but they're beating each other over and over again, like what happened in the SEC this year. How do you properly rank these teams? What method do you think they should either switch to, or are you cool with the current method? How do you rank these teams?
So I'm glad you asked this. I don't think I have enough time to go into a deep dive on this, but I'll say this. What does SMU do in the SEC?
6, 7 wins, probably.
What does A&M do in the ACC? I don't think they win 10 games in the ACC.
Really?
But I don't know. I don't know.
I think 9 minimum.
Okay. And that's how close they were in the SEC to that, by the way, right? And they technically won. They only lost 3 games only. They lost very important 3 SEC games, but they lost 3 SEC games. My point is, there's a lot of folks that I've seen in my mentions and on the text like mad, like, how dare A&M not make the playoffs? You got SMU going to the playoffs. You got TCU that went, and Texas gets in their first year, yada, yada. There's some yelling going on over there. And that's the price you pay to play in the biggest, baddest conference in the world. So it's exactly that in every sport. Volleyball, baseball, basketball. How many top 25 teams did we say? 7?
8 top 25 teams, 4 in the top 10, 3 in the top 5.
Baseball, we know the gauntlet that is. So that's just what it takes. And unfortunately, they haven't figured it out. And there's a part of me that actually has empathy for the other conferences, because I'm like, if you want to have a real college football playoff system, you do got to include them. But there is a tie goes to the runner, and that runner is the SEC in this case. All right, that's going to do it. Great question. For TexAgs Live here on a Tuesday, right? Tuesday? All right, I don't know what we have tomorrow. I know we got Bronny. I know we got Pounding the Rock. See you then.